My name is Upati Sir. We live in extremely fortunate times to be born human beings and to have access to the teachings of the Buddha. Today, 26 centuries after the demise of Lord Buddha and his chief disciples, a small number of bhikkhus still aspire to practice the Eightfold Noble Path, having relinquished the material world. Bhante Chandana is one of them, but his noble endeavors are unsustainable without our support. So, if you feel inspired by Bhante's teachings, please consider. A timely donation from the right places goes a long way to prolong the Buddha's dispensation. May the blessings of the Triple Gems be with you. Sukhi Hotu.
So today we go back to the Anguttara Nikaya, and we see Lord Buddha being encountered or confronted in this case with a group of individuals who are Brahmins, this time in a new area, a new city. It was called Verañjā. And everywhere he went, Lord Buddha would always, especially if it was a new area, new region, new territory, and India is vast, it would be almost like starting from scratch as it relates to building bridges of communication with the locals, with the natives of that area. Sometimes we like to simplify things, or simply because we have been encountering, we have been familiarizing ourselves with the Dhamma and the history through these suttas. We think that everybody knew, but they didn't. And what is worse than no information is a little bit of information. And here would be an example of that. Throughout the suttas, we see various encounters, various moments where individuals came up to Lord Buddha with certain preconceived notions or what they thought he was all about. And oftentimes, they were wrong. People had the idea, they still do, including within Buddhist circles today, Theravada circles, we see how, unfortunately, there is the perpetuation of wrong view. Right view takes effort. Just like anything that is worthwhile, it requires wisdom, it requires wise attention with sufficient data that is accurate to begin with. So we never work with sufficient means to come up with our conclusions. Hence, our conclusions remain assumptions at best, or speculative. And that's why I was mentioning, as you were sitting, the key ingredient is wise attention, wise radical attention. Lord Buddha gave it the name Yoniso Manasikara. That is not just when you are sitting, by the way. That is in everything that you do. Where is the attention? The thing that your attention is on, is it the best thing that you could be attending to, paying attention to. So I encourage you to continue sitting if so you don't need to be opening your eyes and listening with your eyes. So because all of these suttas are meditation objects as well for the meditation student. That's one of the best ways, in fact, that you can gain and make the most of these sessions. So today's sutta, as I mentioned, comes from the Anguttara Nikaya, which are the numerical discourses from the book of the Eights, this time, Attaka Nipāta, sutta number 8.11, Verañjā Sutta, at Verañjā. I have personally heard this. Once, while the Blessed One was living at Verañjā, he was sitting at the root of a neem tree dedicated to Naleru, when a Brahmin from Veranjā approached the Blessed One, and after exchanging friendly greetings with him, sat to one side and said, Master Gautama, I have heard the following report about you. Few things dedicated to Naleru. These are gods, and they would dedicate sometimes the planting of a tree, or there would be ceremonies afterwards. After the tree is there, people notice it, and they make dedications and they do offerings. So it's a neem tree, it's a medicinal tree also. It's used for different things. So Lord Buddha is sitting there under the, enjoying the shade of it, of the tree. But this person, this Brahmin who approaches, he doesn't come to make a social visit. He doesn't come to simply say hello. And even though the compilers of the suttas, don't necessarily have rude remarks here placed from, coming from him. However, you will see the context that in fact he is very upset. Remember, Lord Buddha was seen by a person who was too rough, a person who was too avant-garde. He was shaking the establishment, the status quo, the social construct and the structures. Many were seeing him as a disruptor. So this is where that person is coming from, the Brahmin. And we'll see also from his statements that he's also a little bit older, if not a lot, from Lord Buddha. So here's his what he has heard, the report about Lord Buddha. So he's being disrespectful. The recluse Gautama, so he says, Master Gautama, I have heard the following report about you. The recluse Gautama does not pay homage to, nor worships, nor respects elders. He does not offer a seat, nor stands out of respect, nor bows down to Brahmin elders, who are advanced in years, burdened by age, having come to the end of their lives. So he says, that's the report. And then this is his statement. And now I see that this indeed is true. For the recluse Gautama does not pay homage to, nor worships, nor respects Brahmin elders, as I see him not offering a seat, nor standing out of respect, nor bowing down to Brahmin elders, who are advanced in years, burdened by age, having come to the end of their lives. Now, Master Gautama, this is quite an inappropriate and disrespectful conduct. So he's basically trying to scold Lord Buddha, because he's an elderly person, he's a Brahmin, so therefore he should get the respect in his mind. Remember, this is a new area, and he happens to be one of the big Brahmins of Veranjā. And this is Lord Buddha's response. Brahmin, in this world, together with its gods, maras, Brahma, and the community of recluses and religious practitioners, I do not see anyone for me to pay homage to, or worship, or offer a seat or bow down to. For if the Tathagata were to pay homage to, or worship, or offer a seat or bow down to anyone, that person's head would simply explode, splitting into pieces. So basically, he's doing him a favor to keep him around a little bit longer because he's the Tathagata. In fact, having a Tathagata, a Buddha, in the universe, in existence, cannot coincide with another Tathagata appearing in another part of the cosmos. It's too much for the very fabric of existence, for the cosmos to handle it. It will tear up. So it's highly important to know the value. Yeah, it's a term. Yes, we use it, and yes, we bow down, this and that. We go through the emotions oftentimes, but we don't take into consideration some of these things. Lord Buddha never rose from his seat for anyone after becoming the Buddha. It's impossible. So here he is saying, there are things that you don't know, obviously, but just to let you know that if I were to, this would happen. And then he will get now a reaction from Verañjā. I see Master Gautama lacks modesty or tact, based on what Lord Buddha had just said, because he's coming from a very egocentric point of view, this person, Verañjā. And Lord Buddha gives him a response. Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I lack modesty or tact. Brahmin, as it relates to enjoying pleasures gained from visible forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and touches, all of which the Tathagata has pulled out from their roots, eradicating them all, ending them like a palm tree stump that's cut in half, making it a thing that could never grow or rise again. Now that, Brahmin, would be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama lacks modesty or tact. But this, of course, is not what you were referring to in your accusation. So Lord Buddha is going to take whatever he's throwing at him, just like they would teach in Aikido or in Tai Chi. He's returning it back to him. And you see how it is masterfully being done, the application of wisdom. In these harsh, very heated moments where someone comes at you with preconceived notions, misconceptions, judgments, accusations, etc., it's very easy for us to be pulled into that energy vortex and to let go of wisdom. Here, Lord Buddha is correcting him, saying the truth, speaking Dhamma, helping him. And any seeds of past good intentions, wholesome, skillful seeds in his past lives that are still laden there within his heart to sprout. So many things are happening within each of these responses that Lord Buddha is giving to Verañjā. And then he comes back with another one. I see Master Gautama is inconsiderate and unamiable. Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I am inconsiderate. Brahmin, as it relates to enjoying pleasures gained from visible forms, sounds, odors, flavors, and touches, all of which the Tathagata has pulled out from their roots, eradicating them all, ending them like a palm tree stump that's cut in half, making it a thing that could never grow or rise again. Now that Brahmin would be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama is inconsiderate and unamiable. But this, of course, is not what you were referring to in your accusation. So he's saying, I know what you were trying to say. I heard you, and I know your intentions in what you said. But here is what I can pluck out of what you said and use those adjectives, those qualifiers, to turn you towards the Dhamma as to what it means to be inconsiderate. Most of us are so considerate, so alert at caving in, at giving up to our baser instincts. Let's say when you see something very provocative, whether it's another human being or if it's a beautiful thing that you saw, a beautiful sight, a sunset, lovely sky. When was the last time you looked at that as just following the old sankharas or previous tendencies or the drives, underlying tendencies, anusayas, to want to look at it and give it a second look, to get a little bit more out of it, the sound, something lovely. And that is what we mean by leaning into it, by being sucked into its details and its features. So he doesn't see that. Now, Lord Buddha had full access to all his sense spheres. His taste buds were working beautifully, as we spoke a few sessions ago about that. But he has penetrated, just like someone who cuts through the palm tree. The palm, the banana, if you actually cut it, you look for the center. Is there a center? There isn't. You're not going to find any heartwood there. It's just layers and layers of pulp, the different layers and layers and layers, and you pull, there's nothing there. And that's what he's saying. Someone who just cut it. And that's why it's not going to grow back. It will not grow back. A palm tree, cut it, it won't grow back. And then Verañjā comes back and says, I see Master Gautama teaches indifference, encouraging inaction and passivity. So this is where he's coming back with to his what he has heard. Remember, one of the most pervasive, abundantly available influence of India at that time has been Jainism, or Niganthanataputta's tradition. What we have today is Jainism as well. It's the same thing, pretty much. And they were very much against Lord Buddha's teachings. So on one hand, you had the Brahmins, on the other, you had the Jains who were walking around naked. They're the ones who had been around even before Buddhism, of course. Lord Buddha was practicing some of their austerities, that it was prevalent in those days. If you're practicing spirituality, anything to do with the holy life, brahmacharya, then you must punish the body. That's why he fell for that, like everyone else, even to this day. Abusing the body, that's how you go to the spirit, that's how you go to the lokuttara, the supramundane. And that is not true. That's why Lord Buddha discovered the fallacy and all that. So when someone sees Lord Buddha sitting there and not engaging in any of those austerities, for example, or none of his close students or sitting around him, then immediately they have a certain hermeneutical device in their head. They're doing interpretation. That's what we do all the time. We are always assuming, speculating, So this man comes with a bag of speculations to Lord Buddha, and he's hurling them at Lord Buddha. And each one of them, Lord Buddha serves back to him with a dose of Dhamma to go along with it. Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I teach indifference, encouraging inaction and passivity. After all, Brahmin, I do teach indifference, encouraging inaction and impassivity towards all evil and unwholesome bodily misbehavior, towards all evil and unwholesome verbal misbehavior, and towards all evil and unwholesome mental misbehavior or behavior, depending on how you want to read it, in addition to any and all kinds of harmful and bad actions. So basically he's saying, yes, I will take what, some of these qualifiers you're giving me. I'm passive. What does passivity mean? Or inactive or indifferent mean in the middle of action? So if someone comes and throws things along your way, opportunities for the sense spheres to go wild, to be exposed to your sensory, let's say the eyes, pick up several different things, provocative. That's what the internet does. That's what the world of advertising is doing. That's what the world of news does. And it agitates the heart. And then the words, the sankharas, the vachi sankhara are fuel already starting to bubble inside of you. So that's where we have the subvocal speech. It is speech, but it's not heard yet out of the lips. It's not been unleashed. But once it's unleashed, you're no longer passive, are you? You're very much active, actively involved, in fact. They have been unleashed. And there's going to be devastation. So Lord Buddha is saying, I don't encourage activity like that. I don't encourage, in fact, I encourage inactivity, passivity towards those tendencies. Remember, this is a crucial part of applying the right effort. Right effort has 4 aspects, remember? The first 2 are involving unwholesome behavior, having to do with wrong actions, whether the action is physical, verbal, or mental. Ones that have arisen, the negative, the bad, the evil thought, the tendency, that is already there, lurking about, you stop it in mid-sentence, as it were. Don't finish, if it was a series of words, don't finish them to put a period at the end. Like, no, I'm too committed now. I have to unleash the rest of the sentence. No, stop. And similarly with the mental thought, and similarly, obviously, with the body, something that you're doing that is wrong. Whether it's towards yourself, let's say, doing something that is going to harm you. If you're using a knife to cut a vegetable, if there is no wise radical attention, you're going to cut yourself rather than the onion. So here, right effort also means, yes, you have the knife, yes, you have your finger there, as well as the onion. Don't go in the motion where the knife is going to be cutting your finger off. Hold position. Stop it. Inactive. Inactive. And similarly, if it's a habit, you just said yes to someone that you're going to go to a party, and you know what happens at those parties. You don't like yourself after those, or even during. You ask yourself, why did I even say yes to this debacle? But I'm here. But before it gets to that, let's say, even if you've said, yes, I will attend, I will go and meet you, I will, and you know that person's presence is very toxic to you. You hate yourself afterwards or during even. There is no shame in calling them back, texting them or something, and say, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to, I didn't mean to stood you up or anything. I cannot do this. And sometimes that is the best thing you could do to that person as well, not just yourself, because you've set both of you free. So similarly with the words, you are not supposed to be committed to those evil words or evil or bad actions. That is not your destiny. You always have the opportunity to walk away from anything that is akusala, Lord Buddha is saying. So maintain indifference towards those things. Walk away. Walk away. Therefore, Brahmin, this would be the situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama teaches indifference, encouraging inaction and impassivity. But this, of course, is not what you are referring to in your accusation. I see Master Gautama teaches annihilationism or nihilism. Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I teach annihilationism. You see, Brahmin, I do teach the annihilation of lust, of hatred, and delusion, in addition to the annihilation of any and all kinds of harmful and bad actions. Today, modern science, as we understand it, or the intelligentsia, or the academic class, or anyone who claims to be educated or well-rounded in their education, in their understanding of the universe, of the world, of life, when you dig deep enough, you will see that that is where they lead to, because oftentimes if they would find that talking about life after death is like a death sentence to their reputation, especially if they're well known, because you cannot be an intelligent person in society, a reputable person, and believe in life after death. And that had been going on for the last, up until about 5-10 years ago, at least in Western societies and Western culture, but you have that permeating everywhere now in Asia as well, where you even have so-called Buddhist teachers, lay or monastic, that have been pulling away from teaching about rebirth and more inclined towards this postmodernist, materialist, where everything has to be, deductive reasoning, something like that. It has to be, you have to break it down into its, almost like atomism, breaking it down into its component parts. And if it's not something that could be measured, identified with these empirical tools, eyes, other senses, then it's not valid. So you had that because you had atomism being taught in India long before the West. So, and here is coming and saying, you're an annihilationist, you're a nihilist, because it is one of the 62, 63 views of those days in India, in which Lord Buddha clearly, throughout the suttas, you see, he doesn't have anything to do with that. He explains this in the Verañjā Sutta. Because all these things rely on contact, Lord Buddha says. Tadapi paccaya passo, or tadapi passo paccaya. So everything relies on contact because it does not address the main problem. So he says, therefore, Brahman, this would be the situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama teaches annihilationism. But this, of course, is not what you are referring to in your accusation. So he says, I see what you're saying, but that has nothing to do with me. But I do, I'm going to give you a benefit, of what you, using that term you threw at me. And that's his interpretation. I see Master Gautama lives with disgust towards all things. Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I teach and live with disgust. You see, Brahmin, I do live with disgust towards all types of bodily misconduct, verbal misconduct, and mental misconduct, in addition to any and all kinds of harmful and evil actions. Therefore, Brahmin, this would be the situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama lives with disgust. But this, of course, is not what you are referring to in your accusation. So he says, disgust is a terrible word in English. Is like, oh, I'm disgusted. Usually it connotes something bad. But we have also repulsive. In Pali, it's asubha. If you want to break yourself free from anything that has been holding you captive, you look at its repulsive aspects, because you have been too lost in its attractive features. I was mentioning about visible objects or auditory, or food. Some people have this a very, very strong attachment to food for one reason or another. So one of the quickest ways that Lord Buddha teaches us to break free from that attachment, which brings pain and suffering for us, because the person at least is going to end up and overeat. And one of the quickest results, consequences of such a lifestyle is, obviously, we see over time, chronically, the person becomes diabetic or obese, not just overweight, along with other things, but a very quick outcome with that would be indigestion, for example, the inability to sit still, or becoming drowsy, falling asleep right after a meal. I know people, family friends, that after every meal they need to lie down. They go into comatose states. But 5 minutes earlier, they were devouring not that plate, but those plates of food. They were very, very present. I once had a student, and every time the group would be sitting, she would just go like this, falls to the side. And I would ask her in private interviews, like, are you like that when you're in front of the fridge, when you're eating, or when you're teaching a class, when you're working? Would you do that? And she would laugh and she would say, no, Bhante. And I said, okay, so there's a problem. It's not the setting, is it? In your mind, it's the setting outside of your mind. Because if I bring you a big, meal that you like, suddenly the drowsiness, the sleepiness, the lethargy, the sloth and torpor out the window. So let's approach food in a different way in this example. Imagine you take a big bite of that burger or that meat, of that cake, of that favorite donut, whatever it is that you like to eat. Just bite into it, a big, make sure it's a big bite. And then don't swallow it, don't chew it. Just let your inside of your mouth touch it. Okay, I'll have all the walls in your mouth and teeth and tongue touch it. Yes, okay. Now open your mouth wide and pull that morsel of food out, no matter how big it is, because we know how hungry you were, right? With your eyes at least. Pull it out and put it in front of you. Look at it. How appetizing is that now? Would you want to put it back in your mouth? I thought so. Now that is the quickest way to do the repulsive technique or the disgusting technique. And then you see that The disgusting part, in fact, is the attachment towards it. The holding on to it, that I have to finish this, because if I don't, it's life and death. No, that was just greed. That was just passion. That was lust after the food. So Lord Buddha is saying there needs to be disgust. And that, in that sense, yes, I live with disgust, he says. But that's not what you were talking about, is it? Verañjā says, that you're accusing me of. And he says, I see Master Gautama is a destroyer of families, driving them apart. He's a Brahmin. Many Brahmins were having their sons, their daughters, leave the household life. Remember Ratapala? He came from a very wealthy Brahmin family, so the Brahmins were not liking what they were seeing. Many of these sons were the only son of the family. So where is all that money going to go? So all those legacy, all those hard years of working and generational wealth that have been accumulated. So yeah, of course you're destroying families. But Lord Buddha responds by saying, Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I am a destroyer. After all, Brahmin, I am a destroyer, for I do teach individuals and their families the Dhamma that dismantles and drives out lust, hatred, and delusion from people's hearts. That, in addition to any and all kinds of harmful and evil qualities that are driven out from them. So he did a spin on the destroyer part, right? This is application of wisdom, because he's teaching the person Dhamma, even though the man is coming at him with weapons of insults and trying to demean or all these lies. And Lord Buddha is compassionately sending it back his way with a little bit of Dhamma with them. Therefore, Brahman, this would be the situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama is a destroyer. But this, of course, is not what you are referring to in your accusation. We're living in a time period where everything is soft. In fact, if you're a little bit sharp-edged, angular, they're not going to like you, and they like to label you. That's what this culture is. It's all about labels now. They ruin reputations. And Buddhism and Buddhist circles are no different. So many people deludedly have been under the impression, and they've been promoting this, that Buddhists or Buddhist monks especially are supposed to be soft. And one thing for sure, we are not soft. There's times where we have to be soft, of course, just like where we have to be sharp. Lord Buddha even used beautiful examples. If you want to put his life example aside, he has used so many, we see so many teachings where one comes to mind. I was mentioning it to a student yesterday, how Lord Buddha says, in order for you to pull out let's say a wood chip, something like a splinter, you need to use something sharper than that to pull it out of your skin. Just one example. He was known as the chief surgeon, Lord Buddha, chief physician, the foremost physician the world could ever produce. Why? What do surgeons use to see inside your body? They need to cut it. They need to pull out the poison, the dart, the tumor, the bullet, whatever you want to call it. That's not going to be done by you sitting there and just pretending that everything is nice and dandy. Sometimes we have to go in and we have to be using sharp objects, in this case, sharp wisdom, which requires us to be honest. So we don't have that now in Buddhist circles. So fortunately, though, we have the suttas, and Lord Buddha's example is the best. So that's why we have to go through the suttas and the discourses, because that is where we still find authenticity. Authentic Dhamma is not found other places. In centers and monasteries and famous celebrity type teachers. Forget it. And that's why people have been going and flocking towards those, and that's why the Dhamma, the dispensation, is disappearing. You speak with any legitimate teacher who's dedicated their lives to the Dhamma, they will tell you that. Bhante Nyanananda, for example, he lived through that painful decades of his life. And that's why he kept pouring and pouring more Dhamma from his heart. He dedicated so much of his life, all of his life actually, to help safeguard the Dhamma. And for that, you have to be a destroyer. Destroyer of what, though? Destroyer, as the man is accusing, is Lord Buddha is saying, no, I am a destroyer, but not the way you think it is. Not the way you're using to accuse me of it. No. Remember, one of the terms, synonyms for an arahant is, or the qualities of Nibbāna is tanhakkhaya. Kaya means, not kaya. Kaya means body. Kaya means destroy, eliminate, eradicate, pull out. But this culture that has gone soft, that's why it's so diluted. We never talk about the truth. We use words, and words that have lost their meaning. And we worship the words. That's why our worshipfulness towards linguistics, and that's what you have scholars and commentators and academicians who talk about the Dhamma. It's dead. It's not even Dhamma. It's not Buddhism. It is an ism, but it has nothing to do with the teaching of Lord Buddha. So we have to be destroyers of those three poisons. Lobha, dosa, moha. Not in someone else, in us. In what form? Through the decisions we're making. Decisions equals, in this case, kamma, intentional actions, whether it's done with the thought, word, or bodily action. So Lord Buddha was not a destroyer of families. Destroyer of the family of kilesas, you can say. The defilements in the heart. Absolutely. That's what the Dhamma does. It dismembers that family in the heart. The defilements. That is the only place that you can use the phrase, Lord Buddha was a destroyer. That's what he's saying. I see Master Gautama teaches crushing through self-burnout. Crushing through self-burnout. Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I teach crushing. You see, Brahmin, I do teach and emphasize the crushing and burning out of evil and unwholesome bodily conduct, verbal unwholesome conduct, and mental unwholesome conduct. This because I declare that the one who has completely removed the unwholesome and evil qualities from one's heart is in fact a crusher, someone who has burned out and cut off all evil and harmful qualities from their very roots, just like a palm tree, turning it into a dead stump, having obliterated it from ever growing any shoots again. The Tathagata therefore has destroyed and eliminated all manner of evil and unwholesome qualities from his heart by crushing, burning out, and cutting off all evil and harmful qualities from their very roots, just like a palm tree, turning it into a dead stump, having obliterated it from ever growing any shoots again. Therefore, Brahmin, this would be the situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama teaches crushing. But this, again, of course, is not what you are referring to in your accusation. This was, by the way, in case you missed it, this was a lion's roar. when Lord Buddha is declaring his status and who he is and what he is and what he has accomplished. These are not just words that we have to read like a novel. Unfortunately, for several centuries now in Asia, and it started long before the Mahayana's corruptions and later on Vajrayana's corruptions. Long before those came into the scene, Theravada was corrupting the teachings of Lord Buddha. It wasn't called Theravada then, but the same tradition that now we see as Theravada. They're the ones who started moving away from the suttas by claiming that the suttas were not the deep teachings of Lord Buddha. It all had to do with following precepts, following rules, following this, ceremonies, rituals, and emphasis on studying the commentaries as a primary source. In academia, it's called primary, secondary sources, etc. They were considered now more important, taking you to the crux of the Dhamma, the commentaries, not the suttas. The suttas they saw as lokia or mundane, worldly, things that are for the village people, common person, because you had less and less and less practitioners, dedicated practitioners in monasteries. So this is not something new, by the way. Scholars came into view, who are basically non-practitioners, usually. 99.9% of them. They are very lazy when it comes to practicing, to applying the Satipatthana, even though they might write books on it, treatises on it. So these suttas, each of these suttas are jam-packed, as they say, with so much Dhamma. And it's no surprise that by them going away from the suttas, they've also opened up the floodgates of the Dhamma to disappear, for delusional thinking to come in. And what we are doing here is the opposite of that, with you putting the time and energy to listen and read the suttas. So you are keeping the Dhamma alive every time you are observing your evil and harmful qualities, instead of treating it like your family. Loving family, that is. You're carefully observing your reliance on past tendencies of doing things, saying certain things, and allowing yourself to be a crusher. Lord Buddha is saying, I'm allowing you to be a crusher. Crusher of what? Crusher of those unwholesome conducts, mental, verbal, and physical. I see Master Gautama teaches the ending of life. Brahmin, there might be a situation according to which it may be possible to claim that I teach the ending of life. After all, Brahmin, I do teach the ending of perpetually existing. Samsara, perpetual existence, lackadaisical existence, flailing around, roaming around, loitering around in samsara, aimlessly hobnobbing, going from one womb to the next, like a hotel, like an Airbnb, going around for eternity. Because that's what you have in samsara, perpetual existence. He says, I do teach the ending of that, Brahmin. I do teach the giving up the desire to keep going from womb to womb in the endless cycles of re-becoming, putting a final stop to all future rebirths from taking place again. This because I declare that the one who has completely eradicated and removed the desire for re-becoming from one's heart is in fact an ender who puts an end to it, finishes things. Someone who has given up and cut off any chances for a future rebirth to take place, having cut it off just like a palm tree turning it into a dead stump, obliterating it from ever growing any shoots again. So in that sense, he says, yeah, I am an ender. I teach ending of perpetual existing, perpetually. The Tathagata therefore has completely given up and thus ended all perpetual future existences, putting a final stop to all future rebirths from taking place again. This because he has eradicated and removed completely from his heart the desire for re-becoming, and therefore is in fact an ender. The one who has given up and cut off any chances for a future rebirth from taking place, having cut it off just like a palm tree, turning it into a dead stump, obliterating it from ever growing any shoots again. Therefore, Brahmin, this would be the situation according to which it may be possible to claim that the recluse Gautama teaches the ending of life. But this, of course, is not what you are referring to in your accusation. Here was another lion's roar, by the way, in case you missed it. The Dhamma has a purpose. Your sits must have a purpose. You wanting to read the suttas must have a purpose. That itself, the quality of that purpose will make it either, will keep it a mundane purpose or a lokuttara, a supramundane, beyond worldliness. Today, we claim to have millions and millions. I think one time I even heard somebody say 1 billion Buddhists in the world. Numbers mean nothing. Nothing. What are we claiming ourselves to be Buddhists, or even people who are interested, even if you don't call yourself a Buddhist, but people who are interested or respectful towards the Buddha, the Dhamma? Why? Why? I've been asking that for decades. There needs to be the purpose of ending suffering. That's Nibbāna. The ending of craving is Nibbāna. The ending of suffering is Nibbāna. Plainly stated. But it takes work. So remove your rose-colored glasses and put your attention where it needs to go. This is called the Patipada. This is path of practice, training. And you must think of it as if you have only one shot. Don't think about the future. That's what you have. That's what you have, actually, I was going to say in the later traditions, but it's not that only. Theravada, you have that. I was surprised. I've gone to Asia, I've gone to other places and temples in the past, both as a layman and as a monk. I would sit there, and people, when others are giving Dhamma talks, I would hear at the end, especially about individuals who had just died. And they say, may he attain Nibbāna, final Nibbāna in the next life. What happened? What's wrong with this life? Why did he blow it? Why did he not attain it now? What was wrong? What makes him believe that next time is going to have a physical body, or as a human for the next, 600 lifetimes? With the amount of bad things he has done. Perpetual existence needs to be ended, because perpetually existing is also to be regarded as perpetually suffering. Perpetual suffering. That's what Lord Buddha was an ender of. Ender, E-N-D-E-R. Ender. Now Lord Buddha comes back to Verañjā's earlier statement, where he was accusing him as like, oh, you're not respecting the elders, this and that. So now we see this beautiful, simple metaphor, simile that is so unique throughout the suttas. And I just love it. And here's Lord Buddha saying it. Imagine, Brahmin, a hen, a chicken, that has laid 8, 10, or 12 eggs, which she had been taking care of by protecting and incubating them properly, keeping them warm by sitting on them, and not leaving them exposed or away from her warming feathers and protection. Now, the first chick hatches safely, as it finally breaks free by coming out of its eggshell, piercing its way out with its beak and claws. Would you call this chick the youngest of the chicks to come out, or their most senior? He's asking Veran. Oh, Master Gotama, that chick must be called their most senior, for it is the very first among the other chicks to hatch safely and break free. In the same manner, Brahmin, amidst this blind and deluded population that is shrouded in darkness, locked in their shell of ignorance, just like the eggshell, I alone have broken free by piercing through the shell of ignorance, realizing for myself this noble and perfect awakening. And with direct knowledge and understanding, so you see, Brahmin, it is I who am the senior to all, the chief among all beings in existence. This, Brahmin, took place as my persevering effort was roused and continued while being unshaken and unfluctuating, with mindfulness firmly established, unperplexed and unconfused, as my body remained appeased and without any movement, and my heart fully collected and brought to unified oneness, ekaggata. It was then, Brahmin, that while living secluded and removed from sensual desires and unwholesome thoughts, I entered upon and remained in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thinking and pondering, with joy and pleasure that arise from such seclusion. Next, through the disappearance of both thinking and pondering, I entered upon and remained in the second jhana, which has self-confidence and singleness of mind, in the absence of thinking and pondering, vitakka vichara, with joy and pleasure that are the result of collectedness of mind, samadhi. Further, with the detachment from and fading away of joy, I remained in equanimity, while being mindful and fully aware with pristine clarity, experiencing pleasure and happiness within the body, as I entered and remained in the third jhana, about which the noble ones declare, it is such a one indeed who is serenely mindful, abiding in happiness, with an ever-present sense of equanimity. Afterwards, by giving up both pleasure and pain, and having already gone beyond joy and anguish, I remained in a state of purifying mindfulness with the ever-growing sense of equanimity, while experiencing neither pleasure nor pain, having gone beyond both, as I attained to the fourth jhana. And when the heart was thus collected and concentrated, purified, without any blemish, malleable, and in an imperturbable state, I directed the mind to recollect the manifold past lives I have lived. Thus, I recollected my many past lives in all their details and features, that is, 1 birth, 2 births, 3 births, 4 births, 5 births, 10 births, 20 births, 30, 40, 50 births, 100 births, 1,000 births, 100,000 births, many eons of world contractions, many eons of world expansions, many eons of world contractions and expansions, recalling them all in this manner. There I was so named, of such a family, with such an appearance. Such was my food and sustenance. Such were my experiences of pleasure and pain. Such was my lifespan, and after passing away from there, I was reborn elsewhere. And there too I was so named, of such a family, with such an appearance. Such was my food and sustenance. Such were my experiences of pleasure and pain, and such was my lifespan. And passing away from there, I was reborn here. Brahmin, this was the first true knowledge that occurred in the first watch of the night, wherein the darkness of ignorance completely vanished, and the brilliant light of true knowledge arose in me, as I remained diligent in my perseverance with aroused energy and resolute in my practice, which is what would happen in the case of any meditator who is equally diligent, resolute, and dedicated. This Brahmin was my first breakthrough, just like that chick's that freed itself from the eggshell. Lord Buddha is describing the first of the Tivijja, or the three knowledges. Sometimes, well, many times in the suttas, there's a term called Vedagu. Many people make the mistake of thinking that Lord Buddha is talking about the Brahmanic, Vedic, or the three Vedas. In those days, there was only the three Vedas. Absolutely not. And the true Vedagu, because the Brahmins have also that term, Vedagu, as the person who's expert at the three Vedas. That means nothing, because it's just memorizations of ceremonies and empty rituals, mantras and things. Lord Buddha would just shun those and brush them off, because the person is still completely stupid, essentially, when it comes to perpetually existing with delusion. However, this comes before the attainment of Arahantship, the first true knowledge, the first of the three in becoming an Arahant. So Lord Buddha just said, this was my first shattering of that eggshell from the inside as I chipped at it with my beak and my my claws, using, some paraphrasing there. Further, with the heart that had become so purified and collected, free from any defilements and without any blemishes in it, workable, flexible, soft but steady, and also imperturbable, I directed it to know the disappearance and reappearance of beings. Thus, by utilizing the divine eye, which is pure and far superior to those of humans and other beings, I applied the psychic power of knowing the destinations of beings as they die and reappear into the different realms of existence. Thus, I clearly saw all types of beings dying at the end of life, whether being reborn into exalted or miserable states, beautiful or ugly, fortunate or unfortunate, as I witnessed by seeing directly and therefore understanding clearly how beings pass on to different states according to their actions. And thus I knew how these beings who behaved badly through their bodily actions, their speech, and their mental actions, being disrespectful towards the noble ones, while grasping onto their wrong views, and on account of their wrong views in action, with the breakup of the body after death, are now reborn in a state of misery, utter deprivation, in a bad destination, in evil states, and in the hells. They do exist. The hells do exist, as do heavens, of course. But these worthy beings who behaved virtuously through their bodily actions, their speech, and their mental actions, being respectful towards the noble ones, being right in their views, and on account of their right views in action, with the breakup of the body after death, are now reborn in a state of happiness, in a good destination, even in the heavenly world. Therefore, with the divine eye, which is far superior to those of human beings and other animals, I saw clearly beings dying at the end of their life and being reborn into either exalted or miserable states, beautiful or ugly, fortunate or unfortunate, as I witnessed by seeing directly and understanding clearly how beings pass on to different states according to their actions. Brahmin, this was the second true knowledge that occurred in the middle watch of the night, wherein the darkness of ignorance completely vanished, and the brilliant light of true knowledge arose in me, as I remained diligent in my perseverance with aroused energy, and resolute in my practice, which is what would happen in the case of any meditator who is equally diligent, resolute, and dedicated. This, Brahmin, was my second breakthrough, just like the chicks that freed itself from the eggshell. So this is the second knowledge, as Lord Buddha mentions. And here it's poignant to just pause and just take it in when Lord Buddha says, which is what would happen in the case of any meditator who is equally diligent, resolute, and dedicated. You don't see this anywhere in any, let's call it, religious path, where Lord Buddha, as far as being an Arahant is concerned, is inviting all practitioners who are resolute, who are willing to do the work, to the same level as himself, as an Arahant. So he says, if anyone does this, you too will taste this. And guess what? Not after his death, but while he was alive. He had countless bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who had attained these tevijjas, these three knowledges. They were Vedagus, each on their own, in their own right. That's why the suttas are the manual, not the commentaries. Later, as the heart continued dwelling in that purified and collected state, free from any defilements and without any blemishes in it, workable, flexible, soft but steady, and also imperturbable, I directed it towards the knowledge of seeing and experiencing the destruction and end of the contaminants of the heart, the asavas. Thus, I directly and finally saw clearly, as it truly is, this is suffering. I directly knew and saw as it truly is, this is the origin of suffering, how it arises. I directly knew and saw as it truly is, this is the cessation of suffering. I directly knew and saw as it truly is, this is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. He just listed the Four Noble Truths. Also, I directly and finally saw as it truly is, these are the contaminants, the asavas. I directly and finally saw as it truly is, this is the origin of the contaminants, the origin of the asavas, how they rise. I directly and finally saw as it truly is, this is the cessation of the asavas, the heart's contaminants. I directly and finally saw as it truly is, this is the path leading to the cessation of the asavas, the heart's contaminants. And when I knew and saw directly in this manner, my heart was liberated from the contaminant of sensual desire, from the contaminant of the desire to re-become, and from the contaminant of ignorance. These are the three asavas. So we have kamasava, bhavasava, and avijjasava. Those are at the crux of the defilements. The Lord Buddha continues, when it was released thus, there arose the sublime knowledge in me, I am liberated. And I directly knew immediately, birth is now finally destroyed. The holy life has been fully lived. What had to be done has now been done. There is nothing more to be done, nor there is any further state of becoming left for me. Brahmin, this was the third true knowledge that occurred in the last watch of the night, wherein the darkness of ignorance completely vanished, and the brilliant light of true knowledge arose in me, as I remained diligent in my perseverance with aroused energy and resolute in my practice. which is what would happen in the case of any meditator who is equally diligent, resolute, and dedicated. This Brahmin was my third breakthrough, just like that chick's that freed itself from the eggshell. When this was said, the Brahmin of Verañjā exclaimed to the Blessed One, Master Gautama is the chief. Master Gautama is the eldest indeed. Now I see and understand Master Gautama. So you can see him on his knees, him and along with his other students and fellow Brahmins on their knees, as he exclaims, it is marvelous. It is truly wonderful. Master Gautama has clarified the Dhamma in many ways, as though he were to turn upright what had been turned upside down, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see. Bhante, I go to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of Bhikkhus. May the Blessed One accept me as his lay disciple who has taken refuge in him from today until the end of life. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Brilliant, beautiful, or too weak to describe this lovely discourse, which I have been enjoying tremendously, translating and then now sharing it with you. And I'll pause to see if there are any questions. Comments? These are things we have to go back to revisit and listen to. It's not something like a sutta or a discourse that you can check off and say, yes, we're good. I don't have to go back. That's another amazing thing I've noticed over the years. Every time I would have the tendency to do that, say, okay, that sutta I read, okay, I'm good, so I have to go to the other suttas now. I extracted, basically what that means is, I extracted whatever was extractable. Whatever was good there, I took it. I gained from it. I have yet to come across a single sutta, a single verse that still has, has not something in it to be given, to provide me, to help all, because they're so rich. There's always more that they give, no matter how seemingly simple. Many people look at the Udanas, the suttas in the Udana and Itivuttaka, two of the oldest suttas, along with the Sutta Nipata and the Dhammapada. They look at the suttas in the Udana, for example, and accuse them of, or belittle them by saying, oh, these are minor things. These are like very, as I was mentioning, worldly. They are not as deep. Meanwhile, they're all that. They're so deep. They're all about depth because, and you see, and Udana is another name for, or term for joyous utterance, joyous uttering, expression. Because it was the earliest days of the sasana, and the awakening of the Buddha was still reverberating in the universe. And you see it in the suttas, but also you see it in the encounters and the students that came. You see Dabba, you see, of course, Bahya, who was the quickest to get it with the shortest, simplest, not so simple, but shortest. So saturated with Dhamma teaching that he received from Lord Buddha, and he became an Arahant right on the spot. So When we put too much intellectual jargon between ourselves and the Dhamma, what it does, it comes at our cost. Our cost, because this is the highest price we're going to pay, this life. You don't have time to lose going through intellectual jargon. What did this author mean? This, leave all that aside, go to the suttas. Everything out there should be supportive of our understanding of the suttas. Not to overcomplicate things. We have to be careful. And your practice is the laboratory to bring the Dhamma alive in your heart. So if there are no questions, let's transfer some merits. Akasatha chabumata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu loka sasanam. Akasatha chabumata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu desanam. Akasatha chabumata devanaga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu mamparanti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you enjoy the life-giving energy of the Dhamma every day of your life. May you extract all that is extractable. May you gain so much wisdom every day, every minute of your practice. As you apply yoniso manasikara, wise, radical attention. Radical because it goes to the roots of the experiencing of what? Contact, of the thing you are sensing, seeing, touching, feeling, smelling, etc. Cognizing, knowing. Look at that. Don't be fooled by appearances. Your life is on the line. Your life is always on the line. As they say. So, make the most of this life. May the Triple Gems blessings be with you and your loved ones. Next time we come together, it will be in the new year, as they say, Gregorian calendar. And may it be a safe year. May it be a year that begins and closes with the Dhamma. And may it bring constantly new understanding, new layers of ignorance coming off. And may you realize the paths and fruits of this wonderful, wonderful, amazing Dhamma that was bequeathed to us by Lord Buddha himself. Let us stay true to it as we close this year, and may we hold true as custodians of the Dhamma. Each of us are the custodians of the Dhamma, and approach it with that much care and love and attention. Satipatthana is all the time. All the time. There is not a time where it is not applied. So that we can also be children of Lord Buddha. Any of the classes of 8 noble disciples. Close this life like that, where the lowest attainment you would reach, you would taste, you would experience would be that of a stream winner. That is my wish to you all. May my small efforts in whatever I'm doing here while I'm alive help in that direction, giving you the support. Sukhi hotu. Be well.